Hello everyone and welcome to part 1 of the 148 scale Hobby Boss A-10 Thunderbolt 2 build. This is definitely going to be a fun build, and I chose this particular kit because it's one of the best on the market, having to do with A-10s. So with that, let's go ahead and look in the box. So this kit's extremely detailed, hence why I got it, and it's filled with sprues. The first one we're going to see here is the wings, and very clearly, just off the bat, you can see how crisp and clear this kit is. It has tons of rivets, has tons of recessed panel lines, no raised panel lines, and every single part is extremely detailed, which is going to give this model a much more realistic look. This is a much better kit than those like Tamiya and the Altieri kit, as those ones both do not come to this detail at all, nor have the complexity or detail that is shown in this kit. This kit does come with 2 sprues of weapons, in addition to also having this small box here that has things such as the cockpit and the glass parts. In addition to these glass parts, we also are given rubber wheels and some rope that are going to be used for the chocks. The instructions are extremely clear and come in a booklet form, and they're very precise in how they're laid out, and it's very easy to read and go along with, so it's definitely something that's a plus compared to some kits that come from, say, Dragon, where reading the instructions is sometimes kind of difficult. So we're also given this color glossy sheet with the camo, which is definitely easier to understand and map out on your plane compared to using black and white camo colors. The decals in this kit are actually pretty decent, and it comes with 2, the aircraft and then the weapon decal sheets. So as the instructions tell us to do, we're going to start out the build by starting to build the cockpit. The cockpit was very detailed. This ejection seat that you just saw was very nice. It was slide molded and it came with pretty good parts to accompany it. So the cockpit was definitely a good part of this build. I first started out with a shadow coat using some XS1 black, and once that was all painted, then I decided to go ahead and start painting the gray. For the gray, I went ahead and used sky gray. This is going to look good because it's going to be like the Air Force light gray that's used in the cockpits, and it went over pretty well. The instrument panel decal that was supplied in the kit looked absolutely trash, so I decided I was going to go ahead and paint this one myself. So I started off with some nice dry brushing. And after a really long time of looking at pictures of A-10 cockpits, I decided that I was going to add green wash to areas that would have green things, such as green rings on the instruments for the engine and also the screens. I then went ahead and painted the attitude indicator, along with the master caution lights that would be on the top of the dash. I might be biased, but I do think this looks a little bit better than that decal that was provided, so I am pretty satisfied with it. So all in all, the cockpit's going together pretty well to this point, and here I'm starting to work on the joystick by adding on some red and also some silver. So after the installation of the joystick, I then went ahead and started working on adding things such as the throttle, while also starting to work on the seat. Okay guys, and here we have the completed cockpit. I am really proud of this, as I think it's one of the best cockpits I've ever done. I did go ahead and add a dull coat later, as it was a little bit glossy. Alright, so with the building of the gun, I actually had a lot of issues. I had a huge amount of issues with the fit of the gun and also keeping it together. It probably would have been better if I had built the gun by installing it in the aircraft and building on like that. But I couldn't do it, so what I decided to do is just put it in the barrel, which was the only part that can actually be seen from the outside, and I'm pretty satisfied with that solution. So I'm adding a pilot because I'm going to be displaying this in kind of a flying way, so I just want to make sure I had that pilot so it didn't look silly without one. But now we're getting into the final stages of getting the aircraft fuselage together by adding all these parts. And the aircraft fit really well. I usually don't like this stage because if I mess it up, then I have to do a lot of puttying. but the fit was really nice on this kit other than a couple gaps by the gun, and so it only required a minimal amount of putty, and so the sanding went well and it went really quick, so that was definitely a good experience with this kit. So one thing I really liked also about the fit of this kit is things like the tails and also the installation of the engine were very tight. So all the seams that were made were extremely easy just to fill up using just glue actually. But the one problem I did have with fit was on the wings. It was really tight. So it did fit pretty well on one wing, but the other wing had kind of a gap in there that I had to go back and fill. But it does look pretty good after I've added on both the tail and the wings, so I was pretty satisfied. And now I'm just going to go ahead and add things such as what I think are slats, but also building and installing the flaps onto the aircraft. This kit's pretty cool because you can actually have these flaps in the downward position, as they're completely just out there for you to do what you want with them, but I just decided to go with the flying position of them being stowed. Also to note is these ailerons, which also are speed brakes, they fit pretty well, and the fit into the actual wing was pretty decent other than some gaps. So if the A-10 is known for one thing other than its gun, it's definitely its payload. So here I'm just adding the countless number of pylons. Each were molded pretty finely and crisply, so they all looked pretty good. Alright, and on to the engines. So this was definitely the one part of the kit that I actually did struggle a little bit with the fit. The engines themselves went together pretty good. The only problem was when I was adding on all the parts to make the nacelles. They didn't exactly fit the best, so they had some gaps. What this meant for me was I just had to go back with a little bit of putty, which that's definitely fine. It's just I was definitely loving being able to build this kit so fast. But the little bit of putty worked out fine and it ended up looking pretty decent. But just like the tails and the wings, the fit of the actual mounting for the nacelles onto the aircraft were really tight and pretty much had no seams. So just with a little bit of extra thin cement, I was able to just put these bad boys in place and pretty much have no seam to show for it. Alright, so now that we've pretty much built all of the major assemblies, it's time to start moving into the smaller, more miscellaneous parts. This is going to include things like lights and also antennas that are going to end up on the bottom of the aircraft. So before the last step of building, which is adding on the canopy, I had to paint this part of the dashboard black and also add the HUD, the head-up display, to the cockpit. So for the actual canopy, I went out and bought a mask set. The problem was I couldn't find one for Hobbies, so I ended up buying an Altieri one. The problem with this is the masks actually didn't really fit the glass, so I used parts of the Altieri masking set, but I also had to go ahead and use some of my own tape and cut that out. But the fit was really good with the canopy, so it definitely was a nice and relieving part to realize that, hey, I'm pretty much done with building. Alright, and this is going to be the end of part 1 of the build. Next video is going to include all the painting, weathering, and also final assembly, and then the final reveal. So thank you all so much for watching. I'd love to hear some feedback about what you guys thought. This kit's definitely a good one, so if you're going to build an A-10 kit, I would definitely recommend buying this one. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.